Okay, picture this. You're standing in the blistering sun of the Egyptian desert, staring up at these massive, ancient stone relics. And if you're like most people, you've probably asked yourself, what do they actually mean? We usually just write them off as, relics, grand, silent, architectural oddities, completely disconnected from our hypermodern, fast-paced lives. But what if we've been looking at them all wrong? Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're skipping the dusty history lesson and diving straight into an ancient, genuinely terrifying existential mystery. We're going to decode a message written in stone that's been waiting thousands of years to be understood, and honestly, it's just as urgent for you today as it was the day it was carved.
So, when we visit these ancient sites, we typically run into two very distinct forms. We've got the classic Sphinx, a human head resting on this powerful lion's body. And then we've got another Sphinx, just as imposing, but this one has the head of a ram. The research we're exploring today asks us to basically throw our modern preconceptions out the window. We've got to stop viewing these as just cool stone monuments or fancy architectural decorations meant to look impressive. Instead, we need to read them as visual texts. They are literally psychological maps, brilliantly engineered by ancient minds to decode the very core of the human condition.
Which leads to a pretty wild question. What if these aren't just statues, but actual warnings? We're about to peel back the layers of a 3,000-year-old code, because the master builders who designed these, they weren't just randomly carving animals out of bedrock for fun. They were intentionally mapping out the invisible, agonizing architecture of our own internal struggles. They left behind this stark warning about the diverging paths our minds can take and the potentially devastating consequences of the choices we make every single day.
To actually decode these warnings, the builders used a really clever visual trick that the source research calls the flash technique. Imagine you're walking past this endless row of identical, powerful lion bodies. Then, suddenly, bam, you notice a change. The head has been swapped. A human face is suddenly replaced by a ram's head. That jarring anomaly creates a visual flash in your consciousness. It's like an ancient psychological tripwire. It immediately highlights this hidden philosophy of dichotomy, forcing our brain to stop in its tracks, compare these two conflicting states, and instantly grasp a deep existential truth using nothing but physical shapes.
Let's look at the first one. Section 1. The model of tension. Human head and lion body.
Right off the bat, we're looking at the merging of absolute irreconcilable opposites. Just think about the nature of these two beings. Humans and lions, they are natural enemies. It's a relationship defined by eternal hostility. On the bottom, you have the lion, pure, brute, predatory instinct, raw muscle and aggressive drives. And perched right on top of that, precariously I might add, you have the human head, representing the rational, calculating mind. So we're not looking at some peaceful picture of mythical harmony here. This is a highly volatile entity. It's a literal snapshot of the rational mind, desperately, frantically trying to rein in overwhelming brute force.
And this unnatural pairing leads directly to what the source text calls the struggle for survival. Because grafting a human mind onto an apex predator does not create a stable existence. It represents a continuous, anxious clash. The mind is endlessly, exhaustingly trying to keep those primal physical urges in check. It's like being on permanent high alert. And practically speaking, since the lion is so physically dominant, the research points out a pretty grim reality. The body has a very high probability of actually winning this fight. Having the human head just gives us a possible chance of survival, but it's a chance fraught with deep, exhausting tension.
It perfectly illustrates the immense difficulty of subjecting instinct to wisdom. And I want you to really think about that for a second. This isn't just ancient Egyptian history anymore, is it? This is about us. This stone monument is basically a mirror for our own everyday high-stakes battle to choose reason over impulse. It's that universal struggle of trying to make the calculated, rational choice when your baser instincts, anger, greed, fear, are screaming at you to do the exact opposite.
Now for the second path. Section 2. The model of total corruption. Ram head and lion body.
So if the human head is the rational mind fighting tooth and nail for control, what exactly is the ram? Well, the source material reveals a truth here that is genuinely terrifying. In this ancient psychological code, the ram's head represents senility and dementia. It symbolizes a lost, wandering mind. We're talking about the complete and total loss of conscious awareness, an absolute breakdown of your rational tracking. Just imagine the sheer terror of an ancient civilization trying to carve the concept of cognitive decline, of losing your internal compass directly into solid stone. There's a direct translation from the source text that says it's an existential mutation where any possibility of survival vanishes. Let that really sink in for a moment. An existential mutation where any possibility of survival vanishes.
When you take the terrifying anomaly of a senile, wandering mind that can no longer reason and you fuse it with the destructive, predatory capabilities of a lion, the result is pure horror. Think about the finality of that. There's no longer a chance for survival here. The warning is absolute.
When we put these two existential states side by side, a really uncomfortable truth emerges. The human mind is anxious, right? It's tense. It's locked in this bitter internal struggle, fighting every single day just to stay in control. But the ROM? The ROM experiences zero tension. Why? Because the fight is already over. The senile, unthinking mind has completely surrendered. It is fully submitted to the predatory desires of the body. There's literally no struggle anymore because the beast has entirely taken over the wheel.
When the mind goes dark, but that powerful predatory body remains, you are left with tools of destruction operating with absolutely no rational compass. It is a perfectly corrupt integration. Brute force acting completely unchecked by any wisdom, foresight, or morality. And according to the text, this surrendered state doesn't just bypass tension, it leads straight to one singular, inescapable outcome: inevitable, total destruction.
Which brings us to our final section, Mirror of Human Destiny, the final choice.
The ancient builders essentially laid out the ultimate crossroads for us, offering two starkly different paths. Path 1 is the model of challenge. This is where human consciousness valiantly tries to lead instinct. Make no mistake, it is fraught with extreme risk, deep anxiety, and the constant fear of defeat. But it is a fight for survival. It's the very effort of being human. Then we have Path 2, the model of the fall. This is where consciousness becomes bestial or senile, submitting entirely to the urges of the physical body. Sure, it offers a dark freedom from all that tension, but the cost? Absolute corruption, the total loss of meaning, and inevitable destruction.
For thousands of years, sitting silently in the harsh desert winds, these visual texts have just been waiting. This eternal struggle between the anxious fight of reason and the catastrophic surrender to instinct has been sitting out there, etched perfectly in stone, waiting for us to decode it. They aren't just distant relics. They perfectly map the internal, psychological landscape of every single one of us.
So, now that you know the ancient code, it's time to look inward. Are you fighting the exhausting, anxiety-inducing, but absolutely necessary battle of the human mind? Or have you given up the reins, surrendering to the brute instincts of the body just to escape the tension? Ask yourself, which statue currently governs your own life? Take a moment to really think about that. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the world around you.